Hey guys, it's Anthony Tucker, BHS class in 2007, and I'm here with the coach, Tommy DeSalme, BHS class in 1991. Coach, thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely. Great to be a part of this.
It's so glad to have you back. I know you've probably heard this from a ton of fellow Bruins, but we're in desperate need of your leadership on the court. We have some great kids, and I look forward to talking about that more in a moment. But let's talk about you. Let's time travel back to the 90s. Coach, I grew up hearing stories of you and your class. We used to worship basketball here. You know this. We're in the old gym today. We call it the Phillips Gym now. We look at these banners. Both the Lady Bruins and the Bruins were awesome back in the late 80s when I was born, and the early 90s.
Don't be making me feel older than I am.
Coach.
Yeah.
What was that like? I mean, what memories come to you, kind of stir up with you when you come into this gym?
This is probably my favorite place in Bartlesville.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, being back as a coach, and I know we'll talk about that more, but this is the gym we practice in most of the time because I have such great memories in here. But it started for me even younger than playing. I remember coming, my sister was a cheerleader for Bartlesville High School, and we would go to every game, home game and away, and I'd sit right behind that bench, right behind the bench, and that's when the Bruins, when Coach Esser first started here, and the Bruins, there was always a history of Bartlesville basketball, but it just really changed then. And, there was a bunch of kids in our class that we all sat right behind that bench, and we couldn't wait for the day to be a part of that, and so there's so much history and great stories and great high school players, but great family names that were on those teams, and there's so much pride in Bartlesville basketball that those are the things I remember. I remember the big, the crowds, whether you're home or away, but this place is second to none for atmosphere. And I mean, it was definitely your sixth man on the basketball court. A lot of times your first man, and this place would close. I remember playing as a JV player, JV and varsity, and they'd close the doors. It'd be packed for a JV game. You never see that anymore. So hopefully we can bring some of that back.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought it up, but they used to lock the doors. The fire marshal would be down here. I try to explain it to our younger generation of Bruins. You had to be here early.
You had to be here before the start of the girls' JV game. So would that be 4 o'clock or something?
Yeah.
I mean, Phillips would let out early. They try to save seats, and there's still a few windows up there that people used to sneak in, but it would be packed. And I remember, you showing up. You had to show up even for your game, your varsity game. You had to show up early if you wanted to park anywhere in the near vicinity.
Yeah.
So I mean, but what an incredible treat that was. I mean, those are incredible memories. And when we're all together, whether it was last year when the 91 class went in the Hall of Fame, or 2 years prior when 89 went in the Sports Hall of Fame. I mean, we talk about games a lot, but we talk about the practices and then just the atmosphere more than anything.
Yeah, and the atmosphere, to your point, Coach, it was second to none. And I can remember in the early 2000s, during my era here with the Bruins, just being a fan because I played football and soccer, you wanted to be here. You wanted to chant boring. You wanted the paper. You turned around. And to your point, Coach, sometimes we'd have to sneak up the ladder and get through the window, and they'd knock twice, and you knew it was somebody let in for the Brew Crew back then. But it was something to be a part of. And back then, so we had Coach Bart, and then we had Noah Hartsock, who went D1 after his service to his church, and ended up playing in the NCAA tournament. But we had a long winning streak going until Taylor Griffin and Blake Griffin came to town with OCS, and their dad was the head coach. And Taylor threw one off the backboard to Blake, and I was like, it's probably going to end tonight. I don't know if we can do this, boys. But we went to state championship like my sophomore year. Noah throws up half court against Edmond Santa Fe. It almost drops. We would have won. But there was so much pride in that. And I'm glad that you're here to help reinstill that into our kids. And it starts with your kids in the locker room to know that, guys, this is your time to step up and to carry the torch. And I think sometimes it's harder for kids that maybe towards the end of their journey as a player within the Bruins before they transition on to their next phase of life to realize that maybe some of your direct impacts might not be realized now, but you're laying the foundation for later.
Yeah, and the opportunity of a lifetime for me. I mean, I've been at a lot of different places, but this is always home. My mom and dad are still here. Great friends are still here, but there's a pride that I have in Bartlesville High School, and that's what it's not just about basketball. To me, it's about Bartlesville High School. You know, I think about those Brew Crew. I was telling some of our guys yesterday, and they're part of the Brew Crew for volleyball games or football games. But I was telling them, I said, fellas, you know, the Brew Crew means something still to me, so we're going to try to develop that back. And they had a good crowd, but the Brew Crew was never demeaning. It was always for Bartlesville High School. You know, I mean, yeah, they may say boring or put the newspapers up on the starting lineups, but it never got against the other team. It was always in support of helping the Bruins. And that's what it's got to be. Like, you're coming to support your classmates, a former a Bartlesville person in themselves, you know, and so that's the pride that you want back. It's not all about winning games. We won a lot of games. But man, there's a pride in your school. There's a pride in your classmates. It's different here now than when I was here. You know, it's 9th through 12th all in one school. I like that because we're going to be really young this year. So there's a pride. It's Bartlesville High School. It's not just the Bruins or just 9th grade or just whatever. I think it's more of a pride in not only your school but of your town. And I think there is an opportunity here for me to bring something back and to help develop not just my basketball team, but the kids in the school too. Because there is such great pride for me, no matter where I've been in Bartlesville High School. And I played a lot of sports here, and you know, was all around this town in all different sports, but basketball is the one that was my love. And this place is special, and we can make that new. I call it the new gym. It's not very new anymore, but
I still do too.
It's you know, we can make this an atmosphere that's should be the best in the state, you know, and you're hoping to create that excitement by just how much pride you show on the court. You know, I think that's more than anything. Wins and losses, the wins will come. I don't know when, but how hard we'll play and how hard we want to play for the town of Bartlesville and for our school. That has to be first and foremost, and I think I can bring that back.
And I know everybody's rooting for you because it is palpable in the community when everybody gets behind the Bruins, regardless of what sport. Everybody becomes a part of that identity. It's like your favorite professional team or college team. Oh, we lost this Saturday, right? If you're OU OSU fan, oh, we lost or we won. It's the we aspect. It's a collective movement that's going to take. It's an ideological change.
And that's it.
We are in the gym.
and that's what it's. We're probably going to get some announcements here in a minute. But that's what it takes. It's not the players start it. You have great pride in it, you know, and that's what I try to keep telling them every day. This town wants to root for something, you know, and it's like you said, it's a we deal, and it's going to take everybody in this town for us to get this program, to me, back up, you know, to where it's respected in this state, and that's really hard, but man, it's going to be a lot of fun, and that's what I'm trying to tell these youngins. You know, we may have just one senior on the team this year, but everybody, I said, you're going to have a chance to be a part of something of the rebuild, you know, and we might not be the biggest, we might not be the fastest, but man, we can play the hardest, and we can want that ball a little bit more than the other team, and I'm a believer in that. I'm a believer in it's going to take Bartlesville kids to bring Bartlesville basketball back, or any sport in Bartlesville. It's not about who can you go recruit. I mean, it seems that way anymore, but it's not. It's going to be the kids that are from here that are going to make the big difference. And I take great pride in being a Bartlesville Bruin, always have, and I take great pride in being back here. And every time I step out on the court with them, I can't wait till the games start in November. But we've got a long way to go. But it's I know I can feel the excitement in the town, and all I keep telling them is they just be with us. You know, it's not going to be overnight. But man, what the crowd, what the town can do for basketball or all sports, it doesn't matter what it is. Like you said, it's a we deal, and it takes we. It's not me, it's not those guys, it's everybody in this town, whether that's financially or just what they give back and what they provide for us, and that's what makes Bartlesville basketball special. You know, and that's for the girls team, boys team, anything. You know, there's a great pride in that, and that's we're going to instill that, and I hope the people will come out and watch.
And I'm sure they will. And like, you know, it's a domino effect usually on a rebuild. But talking about going back, let's think back to Coach DeSalme, 1991. You win a state championship with the 91 Bruins, okay? Then you graduate. Where do you go after that?
I go to Southeastern Oklahoma State, and so then it was an NAIA school that was making the transformation or getting ready to go into NCAA. So they had NCAA Division II now. And what's funny on that story is the team we beat in the state championship was Norman High School. The two coaches that Southeastern didn't have a coach at the time of that state championship game. The two coaches that they were wanting were Steve Hesser and Tony Robinson, who was the head coach at Norman. Coach Hesser was out of it. He didn't want that. And Tony Robinson took that job. So I knew Coach Robinson from afar. We had played Norman in the Phillips tournament here and in the state championship game, and they were the defending state champions that year. So I walk on at Southeastern, and there's two great coaches in my life. It was Steve Hesser and Tony Robinson, and they're both very similar and they're both very different. And I learned a ton from both of them. So I played 4 years there, and then as soon as I was done playing there, they offered me the assistant coaching job, which was odd in some ways. It was real quick, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to coach basketball in college. I played baseball, tennis, football, everything here. I was probably a little bit better in baseball as far as getting college opportunities, but I knew I wanted to coach basketball, so I needed to play it in college. And I lucked out and was assistant coach there for 6 years. And then, just by luck, a little Christian school in Sterling, Kansas, Sterling College. I didn't know anybody up there other than I knew the coach that was there, and he was Mick Wilson. He was a high school coach out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I had recruited some mixed kids. And anyway, I'm working a camp in Tulsa, and I get a call, hey, I'm leaving, and he's actually leaving to go to Independence Community College. So it's how it all connects. So hey, I'm going to recommend you. So I go and I get that job. I was there 5 years, and we had a ton of success. Took them to 2 national tournaments that they'd never been to.
Wow.
I thought I needed to do it somewhere else. I just wanted to keep moving. I didn't know where I would end up. I loved the college level. Then I took the job at Kansas Westland for a year. They hadn't been any good, and we were the number 4 team in the country and get to the Sweet 16 of the NAIA national tournament, first time they'd ever been. And then from there, I don't like all the bells. I'm back in high school. I feel like I'm late to class every second. But from there, I get the opportunity in the junior college, and I take the Independence job, and it brought me back closer to home. I'm always like that, 40 minutes away.
Yeah.
I was at Indy for 2 years. Yeah, 2 years. We had good success there. And then another JUCO in the same league, a little bit better one probably, as far as not better, but just a better opportunity for me. Cali College now, but used to be Cali County Community College in Ark City, Kansas, which was where one of my best friends growing up, Aaron Booker, who's a former Bruin here in my class. He's the athletic director and baseball coach at Ark City High School. So I was there for 12 years. I had a great run, and we lost in the national championship game in 2021. But that year we won the first region title that had ever been won there, with a great team, a team that reminded me of some of our Bruin teams, the way we played. And then one of the best jobs in America is Hutchinson Community College. At the junior college level, it's like a Kentucky or a KU. And I got the opportunity to be the head coach there. And I was there for 3 years. We lost in the Elite Eight this past year. We lost in the Sweet 16 2 years prior. It was a great job, and I had no intention really of ever leaving unless something really special came up. And I really wasn't thinking of Bartlesville. I'd been approached by Bartlesville High School before, and it was just never the right timing. But this time there was a lot of things that they'd approached me, and I said, no, let's talk after the season. Yeah. I'd pretty much taken my name out of it, but there was something just kept bringing me back a little bit. And there are a lot of things. One, just the pride of, hey, if you were to ask young Tommy DeSalme at 1991, probably what he wanted to do is coach Bartlesville High School.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of things that went into it, and I thought about conversations that I had with, I have a lot of great friends. Another one of my best friends, Spence Rigdon, class of 91 who passed away in 2019, I believe, was 19. Yeah. Him and I used to have conversations when he came back here to coach, and then he became the AD, and I'd always kid with him, hey, someday you're going to hire me and be the basketball coach. And so something just keep poking at me. So I called probably the best friend in my life, Craig Wassmeller, 1991 grad. He lives here in town, great businessman here in town. He's kind of the go-between. Him and Chris Batchelder, both here. Again, great friends that are back in this area. I said, well, I'll listen, you know, but something just kept pulling me. And then just being back with also family. I'm not married, but my mom and dad mean everything to me, and they're doing great, but they're older. Yeah. And it's an opportunity. They've done everything for me in my life, and it's an opportunity for me to give back there too, to be back home, to maybe make things a little easier on them, but just all those things kind of added up, and then the friendship that I developed with Chuck McCauley, the superintendent here over the years. He made an offer I couldn't refuse, but the end result was something about coming back home, and I didn't want to look back on it in 5-6 years or even 2 years down the road and say, man, I should have done that. I didn't want that opportunity, and I just really felt there was an opportunity here for me to make a difference, and that's all you want. It doesn't matter what level you're coaching at. Yeah, the talent changes and size of kids change. You know, they're younger, but they're still basketball. The basketball's the same how I coach it anywhere. But it's just something about the opportunity to really make a difference, and that's what coaching is. It doesn't matter. I just had a real truth session with myself is, what do you want? What do you want to do? You know, it's that time, and I was like, this is what I want to do. And so what an opportunity, and the support has been great, and it'll continue to get better and better as this ramps up. But there's just a real love, like I said, I have at this place, and the opportunity. I just think it's really, and it's a lot of classes involved in Bruins, but somehow that 91 class, there's a lot of 91 people here that are extremely successful. You know, I come back here, I see them as my boys or my girls, you know, great friends that I have, but I sit back from afar, and man, they're some of the most successful people in this town now. And that's really cool. That's a lot of pride, and so that means something, and that's really cool for that 1991 class.
Yeah, I will say the 91 class, you know, I've already talked with Maria, Gus, already talked with Batch. It's so cool to see, I'd say early 90s and then late 90s, like 98, 99, very, very strong. The 90s class is because, to me, and I felt this even in the early 2000s, we were a lot more connected before social media, before phones. We would know everything about each other just because I would just say, hey, Tommy, what's up? Tell me about how your parents are doing. You know, it was just that old school. But I really liked what you said. You had a true session with yourself. You know, you could have stayed at Hutch. That is a great gig. I know, and Hutch is great at like every sport. Women's soccer, they like 18-0 most of the teams in the Jayhawk conference. But I think a lot of us have that when we have that connection to back home. Like my mom and dad are still here. 3 out of 4 of my sisters are still here. And when I found out Megan and Megan was my high school sweetheart, class of 2009, and we married, and we've been together 20 years almost. And I'll tell you that, you know, I was working a corporate job in California, making a ton of money, you know, and I thought as a boy growing up on the west side, first generation college grad, could it get better than this? And then you start having that itch, and you start feeling something like something's a little off, right? And, you know, then we get pregnant with our first little girl at Christmas time, I find out, and I think, what are we doing? Like, you know, and then next thing you know, I don't catch a flight back to Sacramento for work, and my CEO at the time, she tells me, you'll never make as much money back home, and you know that, and she goes on and on and on, but I'll be myself, and I can feel comfortable with who I am, and I can raise, now I have 2 girls, so I can raise my girls here, and I can be back doing stuff like this with you, and I can feel good when I lay my head at the end of the day. And I think that's what it comes down to, is like when you make a commitment, not that you can't make money in our hometown, because like you said, Craig and Batch and all those guys that we both know, they're very successful people in our community. But when you want to be part of the we, that's when you start making little sacrifices so you can give back, because you think back to all the people who impacted your life, right? They made sacrifices, and maybe we just didn't know at that time because we weren't mature enough to know. But now we know, going into it as adults, like, you got to do what makes you happy and impact others, or your cup is never going to be full.
I totally agree. And there's opportunities come and go, and I think, I think sometimes in the coaching business, you do sometimes, like I said, that true session comes down to what is this all really about?
Yeah.
I think ego gets involved drastically. Maybe that's like, I make this, I do this, I'm the Hutch coach, or I'm the Cali coach, or whatever, I'm a college coach. Really, that stuff doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If you really get down to it, it's what the opportunity you have in front of you to make a difference. Yeah. And that's what I think the pool was back here, an opportunity to come back and when you have a love of a place, of a town, of everything that's involved here. Like I've had a blast working the volleyball games or the softball games, and there's a real pride there. But coming back, I think I can make a difference, whether that's with a normal student that doesn't play sports, to get them involved and being a huge supporter of the sports, or you watch our marching band, it's incredible stuff, and so a lot of people say, man, it's taking a step back. No, I don't think it is. It's an incredible opportunity to make a difference, and make a difference, like you said, in a place where maybe I can make 5 of these young men want to come back here 15 years from now, or maybe make their experience even better. There'll be times where they hate my guts because of how I'm pushing them, but at the end of the day, we're going to develop a relationship that's second to none, you know, and there's, like you said, there's so many great sets of parents of former classmates that are still in this town that it's, the opportunity's here, and that's just an opportunity I couldn't refuse.
Yeah. And speaking of making a difference, so full disclosure, so when Coach was saying that you were at Independence, I was playing soccer, I was a freshman, and so that's how we first connected. Right. And then I figured out you were there, and I was like, holy smokes, like I said, we grew up learning of the legends of the late 80s, early 90s, and I was like, oh, I got to meet him. And next thing you know, I'm enrolled in principles of coaching, because Coach had to teach back then at ICC. So I'm in class with you, and then we're scrimmaging against the team, so some of my buddies that played baseball and football. But I will say Independence kind of had that little hometown culture.
Yeah, absolutely it did.
Because, before, and everybody's like, well, Last Chance U, Netflix. We didn't have all that money when we were there. We had each other, and we would fight, we would be at every game we could be at, and it was a similar culture, and I think that's why I feel so connected even today to Independence, is because it was similar to the Bruins. And then I will tell you a funny story. So Cali now, call it college, they played their first soccer game ever in their history against the Pirates. Now that was a tough game because they had all their fans out there. That they had a soccer only facility. Boy, that was tough. That was a long night. But the culture there, it was amazing. And then you played in the national championship. You played against Coffeyville, which is huge rivals for me because I went to Independence. I remember, and I followed you during that time, and I was just like, dang, that's tough. Out of all people,
you get all the way there, and it turns into a Jayhawk East game.
I
and
know.
The national championship game.
I was like, Coach, how do you draw Coffeyville? You've already played them twice that year?
3 times. That was our 4th time. It was crazy. And we play a unique style, pressing and playing fast that we kind of changed to, and I always give them credit because they played the best game of the year. That game, and then we made a heck of a run to come back and had a chance down 1 with 1:10 left. But. Even then, I was all right, because I was like, Jay Herkelman's a great friend of mine. We've had some incredible battles over the year, the coach at Coffeyville, and he and I become really close, and I was happy for him to win a national championship. There was nothing in my goals that said I got to win a national championship. I was just enjoying the ride, with a great group of kids, and now I look back on it, man, we could have, but it is what it is, and it was an incredible ride in a real strange time during that COVID time, and then it blossomed into something pretty cool. It was a strange time in junior college athletics because every sport was going on at the same time, and it was cool. Basketball kind of had its own little deal there in the middle of April. I mean, it was awesome, and they started letting fans back in, and then the atmosphere got. So it turned into a Jayhawk East game. I was like, woo! It was a big old crowd, but it was a great night and a great opportunity, and it led to some great things for a lot of kids.
Yeah. Talking about strange things, what was your car back in the day in high school? What car did you drive?
We had a family heirloom that was passed down from all my sisters, 79 Celica. that had a bunch of miles on it. And if you went over the railroad tracks or hit a bump too hard, the muffler would about darn near fall off, and then my dad would get mad, and I remember he'd reattach it with a hanger or something.
I remember
you
those
know,
days. Yeah.
And then after that, right at my senior year, we worked, and Aaron Booker and I mowed lawns, you know, all during the summer, and Mom and Dad said, you come up with X amount of dollars, you know, and then we'll help you get a car. And I got like a 90 S car or something. It'd be terrible today. None of the kids would have wanted to ride it, but I loved it, you know. And that's what I had forever. I've never had a brand new car ever, you know. So I don't know what that is like. But yeah, I remember that '79 Celica. It got me to and fro.
Yeah. And that was a small car.
Oh yeah, it was. It was a good
car.
car. It had happinesses of being a grandparent above the license plate.
Let's go,
We never
Coach.
changed it. Every one of my sisters had it, and it just kept getting passed down. So you knew which car it was in town.
Tape player?
Oh yeah, tape player that was stuck in there.
Oh, so
like the tape was stuck in there.
So you were radio
it had the
only?
same thing. No, it was like I just had whatever tape was in there. It was I think it was the Eagles or something was stuck in there, and so if you go over a bump, it would shift it up to a different song or something, you know.
Yeah, you're just hitting bumps and potholes.
I didn't care. I had 4 wheels and I could drive. Yeah.
What was your go-to song back in the day?
You know, well, that'd be a hard one. I've always been a old country music guy, just because I spent so much time with my dad hunting and fishing, and I just, you know, you listen to whatever your parents listen to, but shoot, I listened to a lot of rap and all kinds of different. I was all different genres. I wouldn't say I had a go-to one. I mean, shoot, I like Milli Vanilli, and then they end up being fake. I mean, think about that.
Controversy.
Blame It on the Rain. It was a good song. I don't know who sang it, but it was a good song.
Speaking of rain, Purple Rain back in the day.
Prince. I like Prince, but there was a lot of
Yeah. What do you think the #1 movie at the box office was in 1991?
Shoot, I have no clue. Top Gun, maybe, or something. I don't
Terminator 2.
Terminator 2. There you
But
go.
that was also the era. Home Alone came out in 91.
I remember Christmas Vacation was right in there. I'm a comedy guy, so I remember any of the vacations would come out, we'd go to. But yeah, you know, it's such a different time than the things that, like you said, before social media and before internet, anything. I mean, the things you just did for fun was you'd go hang out at the youth canteen, and you know, you may go up to Gap Hill and drive around or whatever, you know. But it was, like you said, it was a whole different time. And I think some of those things are missed on today's kids, because it was, you know, like you'd go hang out at a game. You know, where you going? We're going to Legion game tonight, or high school baseball or basketball, and then that group, and that's you know, you think back at it, that's why all those groups are so close, because we all hung out together no matter what activities we were in or anything like that. I mean, I had some great friends, you know. I think of Dan Ferris, who passed away maybe a year and a half ago. His mother just passed away, who was a great, unbelievable supporter of high school athletics, even though Dan didn't play. But Dan was a huge supporter. I mean, that class, you know, we just hung out together, whether you were in sports or not. There was a group that you asked me earlier off camera of what grade school I went to. Well, most of us that are still close today started off at Limestone in kindergarten, and it was half-day kindergarten. And you know, Craig Wassmeller and I were in the same kindergarten class at, I don't know what age that is, 6, 7, whatever it is. And, you know, Mother's Day out things at church. I mean, we all just grew up together in those same little grade schools. And Limestone Elementary we walked to school, all of us. You know, we rode bikes everywhere in this town. I think about that, of going to being a 9th grader, which I have a bunch of freshmen on my basketball team, you know, and I think about being a 9th grader riding my bikes everywhere to get to wherever I needed to go. It's a different time and place now, but your parents just told you to be home and what time dinner was.
Street lights come
on.
Yeah,
be home and get your homework done. So it's a different time, and I think, so some social media and stuff is great, but a lot of those old time things, hopefully you can bring back some of those old time things coming back, you know, and because sometimes you can learn from the past, and sometimes these kids today are so latched on to that social media, and hey, we all fall for it, you know. But it's amazing. Since I've been back here, I've been off of it since I've left the college ranks. That's been maybe one of the best things, because at the college ranks, you're always on it. You're always following recruits. You're always, what's the next list coming out on whether it's sport specific or whatever. And shoot, I'm hardly on it anymore, and it's been real freeing.
it's nice just to look up and be like, oh.
Yeah.
And that's been a blessing with having little kids, is because you can't have the phone around because you don't want them to get addicted young.
Right.
So it's a switch up, because back in the day, like, we'd watch Barney.
Yeah.
And yes, I did dress up as Barney one time, and my sister was Baby Bob. Winners at the American Legion, probably around your time, early 90s. God, candy corn was good back in the day. But but I mean, like, they'd turn the TV off or just unplug it, or my dad would be like, we're just not going to pay the cable bill. We're just going to cut it. But like, now it's like we're so dependent upon everything. It's a little bit harder. So Silence of the Lambs was also
That's a good one. I
91,
remember that one.
and Boys in the Hood.
That's a good one. That's a great one. Great
Ricky's
soundtrack.
got the ticket.
Great soundtrack there.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Public Enemy, all those types
Yeah.
from that back in the day. Now, where was a spot you had to go eat at, like at lunch? Because you probably had
We had open lunch. You had to get like 35 minutes, I think. And you had to haul butt, man. So there's always like a group of 4 of us. I always remember, because a lot of times at lunch, it was myself, Mike Ellison, Jessica Delahaye at the time, Jessica Butler now, and Craig probably. And we'd all load up in a car, and you'd try to push it all the way. The farthest you probably can make it was over to Wendy's.
Yeah.
And get back in time. But 99.9% it was Pizza Hut and a little personal pan pizza,
Yep.
and they had it cooking coming out of there, and it was like, with a pop, it was like $3.25 or something.
Yeah.
And then if you didn't have that much money, you stopped at Jack Griffith's up on the corner.
Yeah.
Or
The
the
gizzards?
come and go is now, or whatever, and it's like, you get your gizzards, you get your
Yeah.
papacitos, whatever you got there,
Yeah.
and you could get out of there and get back.
Yeah.
And I remember I had family living my senior year. It was the last hour, and it was right after lunch, and you'd just be hauling butt to get back
Yeah.
before that time. You didn't want to.
It was tough.
Yeah, you didn't want to get a pink slip or whatever.
No,
they called it
no,
there.
no,
You had
no.
to have, a special deal. So it was. But I remember all those times. You'd be just hoping you make the lights.
Yeah.
You get stuck at the light there on Adams and Cherokee, and you'd be like, well, we're going to be late today.
And so back in the day, like, I think of Mr. Meadows, who passed away a couple years ago, but Bernie used to lock the door on me, and I would go. He was on the first floor there in the corner where aviation is now.
Right.
And I used to go up to the window, knock on the window, and see if he was out, like talking to another teacher in the hallway, and then somebody would prop it open, and I would just
sneak right back in.
back in, and he would come in, Mr. Tucker, were you here the whole time? And I'll be like, yeah, I was, I promise. And I'm like all sweaty,
Yeah.
and everybody else is like not perspirating at all, and I'm like, yeah, it's cool.
No, it was a challenge, man.
Yeah.
It was like a personal challenge to
Yeah.
how fast you could get to a certain place.
So tell me, homecoming-wise, as we get ready for homecoming, what were some of your favorite memories from football homecoming?
Yeah, I just remember the atmosphere, that I remember basketball would have something going on. We had a dunk tank some years,
Yeah.
selling hot dogs, hamburgers, but just the atmosphere of it,
Yeah.
and like I said, it was old school, I mean, there's something about that band playing, there's something about the energy, and usually it's in October where you got maybe a little cooler night, you hope, and those special nights, you think back on them, whether it's the homecoming dance or whatever those things are, but just the camaraderie of your class, and then of everybody, not just sports specific, but of everybody. And those nights, then you don't think much of them at the time. Then you think, as you get older, you appreciate them more.
Yeah. And that's why I've been blessed this year to collaborate with Blair Ellis at the Foundation, the Alumni Association, and get back involved. And, we had a new video that dropped, and it kind of takes you back to those memories. And shooting that video, I actually got an old-looking Bruin truck from my neighbor up here by the high school. It was like a two-tone blue, perfect for the video. Rusty, fired up real loud. When you shifted it, you had to count because the dash didn't work.
Right.
So I'm like, some of the shots in the video we had to redo like 5 times because I'm like 1, 2, like counting, trying to get down to reverse and drive. But it really is like what we've been saying this whole time during our conversation, Coach, is like you harken back to those memories and you think, man, those are awesome. Like, I want to make sure the kids have those feelings, and the kids that, regardless if they're your kids or not, we're all responsible. It takes a village to
And
craft
it's their
this.
first time, or it's their only senior homecoming or whatever. So, you get kind of in your ways. You're like, oh, it's another deal or whatever. But you got to remember these kids this is their memories, and you got an opportunity to make their memories where they last a lifetime as well. Just like the teachers and coaches and people in town did for us many years ago and made it that special. And you got to always keep reminding yourself of that because it's their time, and you're trying to make their time the best possible.
Yeah. So speaking of time, thank you for your time today, Coach.
Oh, this is awesome.
And
Yeah.
it's a blessing to have you back. And I know that the whole town, it's the collective. We're going to be pushing. And we'll be back in the new gym, as like Coach DeSalme and I like to call it. We'll be in the new gym pretty soon.
Yeah, not long. We'll kick off our season November 22nd. We'll be one of the first games played in the state. That's the first night you can play, and be playing Ponca City, so it'll be cool. Yeah.
Little Conoco Phillips
Yeah,
Riley
that's
back
all right.
in the day.
Should have a good crowd.
So thank you again, Coach.
Appreciate everything you did and everything you're doing.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks for joining us on Alumni Chat. We look forward to having everybody back for homecoming. We'll see you soon.